You probably know this feeling. You decide that this time you will change everything. You promise yourself that you will wake up early, study daily, work out, eat better, and finally get your life together. For a few days, you feel powerful and focused. Then one normal, boring day quietly breaks everything.
Most people do not fail because they are lazy.
They fail because they are tired of starting over. You set a big goal, you feel excited, and you imagine a future version of yourself who has it all figured out.
But daily life does not care about your excitement.
It keeps moving exactly the same way. Think about how goals usually enter your life. They show up at night when you are emotional and motivated. You are scrolling on your phone, watching someone talk about discipline and success. In that moment, you believe that motivation will last forever. The next morning proves how wrong that feeling was. Big goals sound clean and inspiring. They give you a clear picture of who you want to become. But they also create pressure that sits quietly in your chest. Every time you fail to act, that pressure turns into guilt. Guilt slowly kills the desire to even try. Look at how students usually set goals. They say they will study 6 hours a day from now on. They imagine perfect notes, high grades, and no stress during exams. The first missed study session feels small, so they ignore it. After a week, the goal feels heavy and unrealistic. Young professionals do the same thing at work. They promise themselves they will be productive every single day. They plan deep focus, no distractions, and fast growth. One stressful meeting or bad sleep ruins the plan. Soon, the goal becomes something they avoid thinking about. Phone addiction is another example everyone understands. You tell yourself that you will stop wasting time on social media. You decide to limit your screen time to 1 hour a day. The moment boredom hits, your hand reaches for the phone without asking permission. The goal loses the fight against habit. This cycle repeats in almost every area of life. You set a big goal, feel strong for a moment, then slowly fade back to old patterns. Each failure adds a small crack to your confidence. Over time, you stop trusting your own promises. That loss hurts more than the failure itself. False motivation makes this worse. It convinces you that feeling excited means you are ready. Motivation feels like energy, but it is emotional, not structural. It disappears when life becomes dull or stressful. When motivation leaves, your system collapses because nothing else is holding it together. Many people blame themselves when this happens. They say they lack discipline or willpower. They compare themselves to others who seem consistent and focused. That comparison quietly builds shame. Shame makes habits even harder to build. Daily life is not dramatic. Most days are repetitive, boring, and slightly tiring. Big goals do not fit well into this reality. They ask you to act like a different person overnight. When you cannot meet that demand, your mind looks for escape, not effort. You may notice how goals change your behavior in strange ways. You delay starting because the goal feels too big. You wait for the perfect time, the perfect mood, or the perfect plan. Weeks pass while you prepare to begin. Nothing actually changes. Sometimes you do start, but only in extreme bursts. You work very hard for a short time. You push yourself until you feel exhausted or burned out. After that crash, resting feels necessary, even deserved. The habit never survives the cycle. Big goals also distort how you measure success. If the goal is massive, small effort feels pointless. Reading 2 pages feels useless when your goal is to finish a whole book. 10 minutes of exercise feels like failure compared to an hour workout. You stop valuing small progress. This mindset slowly trains your brain to quit early. If effort does not match the size of the goal, you label it as failure. Over time, your brain learns that trying is painful. Avoiding effort becomes the safer choice. Comfort wins again and again. You might think the solution is stronger motivation. So you watch more videos, read more quotes, and listen to more talks. Each one gives you a temporary lift. But the lift fades because nothing in your environment or behavior has changed. You are still relying on emotion. There is also confusion about consistency. People think consistency means doing a lot every day. Missing one day feels like breaking the streak forever. That all or nothing thinking makes habits fragile. One bad day turns into a bad week, then a bad month. Life interruptions make this even harder. Illness, family issues, deadlines, and unexpected stress are normal. Big goals do not adapt well to these moments. They demand the same performance regardless of circumstances. When you cannot deliver, you feel like you failed again. Over time, you start lowering your expectations. You tell yourself that maybe discipline is not for you. You accept distractions as part of your personality. This belief becomes comfortable, even though it hurts quietly. You stop imagining better systems. The most painful part is the identity damage. Each broken goal tells a story about who you are. You begin to think of yourself as someone who never finishes. Someone who starts strong and ends weak. That story becomes harder to challenge with each failure. People rarely talk about this side of self-improvement. They talk about success stories, not the quiet frustration. They show results, not the messy process behind them. When your reality does not match those stories, you feel alone. You think something is wrong with you, but the problem is not you. The problem is how goals are framed and used. Most goals focus on outcomes, not behavior. They care about results, not systems. This gap creates constant tension between intention and action. Right now, you might be thinking of a goal you failed recently. Maybe it was fitness, studying, saving money, or learning a skill. Notice how heavy that memory feels. Notice how quickly your mind moves to self-blame. That reaction is learned. This is where the frustration sits. You want change, but change feels exhausting. You know what to do, but you cannot make yourself do it consistently. The gap between knowledge and action feels embarrassing. So you avoid thinking about it deeply. Many people stay stuck in this loop for years. They reset goals every January, every Monday, or every new phase of life. Each reset feels hopeful at first. Then the same pattern repeats. The cycle becomes familiar, almost expected. Before talking about solutions, it matters to fully see the problem. Not in a dramatic way, but in an honest one. Big goals promise transformation, but they ignore how humans actually behave. They ask for too much change too fast. Understanding this discomfort is important. It explains why effort feels heavy and motivation feels unreliable. It explains why you keep starting and stopping. This confusion is not failure, it is a signal that something about the approach is broken. At some point, you come across an idea that sounds almost wrong. It says that big goals are not the answer. It suggests that focusing on tiny actions matters more than chasing dramatic results. At first, this feels disappointing. You want change to feel meaningful, not small. This idea becomes clearer when you think about how habits actually work. Your life today is mostly built on things you do without thinking. You brush your teeth, check your phone, open certain apps, and react in familiar ways. These actions are not driven by goals. They are driven by patterns. Atomic Habits introduces a simple but uncomfortable truth. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. That sentence feels quiet, but it explains a lot of frustration. A goal is a direction. A system is what moves you every day. Goals care about the finish line. Systems care about the process. When you only focus on goals, you ignore what actually fills your time. Think about a student who wants top grades. The goal is clear and motivating at first. But the daily system is messy. The phone stays nearby, notifications interrupt focus, and study time feels forced. The same thing happens at work. You want to be productive and grow fast. But your system includes constant email checks, random meetings, and mental fatigue. The goal wants deep focus. The system encourages distraction. Atomic Habits does not say goals are useless. It says goals are not enough. They do not tell you how to behave on a random Tuesday. They do not help when you feel tired or bored. Systems do. One of the core ideas is that habits are small decisions repeated daily. Each habit is a vote for the type of person you are becoming. One vote does not decide everything. But repeated votes slowly shape identity. This idea challenges how people think about motivation. You do not need to feel inspired to act. You need a system that makes action easy. Motivation becomes less important when behavior is automatic. Phone addiction is a clear example. The problem is not lack of discipline. The problem is that the system is designed for easy access. The phone is always within reach. Notifications trigger attention without effort. When the system stays the same, goals feel powerless. You can promise to use your phone less. But if the phone remains the default response to boredom, nothing changes. The habit wins quietly. Atomic Habits also explains why drastic change rarely lasts. Your brain prefers familiar patterns. Big changes create resistance. Small changes feel safe enough to repeat. This is where many people misunderstand the message. They think small habits mean small results. They imagine slow progress that never adds up. But habits compound over time, just like interest. A 1% improvement feels invisible today. After a week, nothing seems different. After a month, it still feels minor. After a year, the difference becomes hard to ignore. Students who study a little every day often outperform those who cram. Not because they are smarter, because their system supports consistency. The habit removes decision fatigue. At work, small process changes matter more than bursts of effort. Writing a short daily task list beats planning a perfect week. Cleaning your workspace for 2 minutes beats reorganizing everything once. Systems favor repetition. Another key idea is environment design. Your behavior follows what is easy. If healthy food is visible, you eat it more. If distractions are close, you use them more. Willpower matters less than setup. People often try to change themselves instead of their surroundings. They rely on self-control while keeping temptation close. Atomic Habits flips this approach. Change the environment and behavior follows naturally. There is also an honest reality check here. Small habits feel boring. They do not give instant pride. They do not make good social media posts. This is why people skip them. Big goals feel heroic. Small habits feel ordinary, but life is mostly ordinary days stacked together. Atomic Habits respects that truth. It works with human nature instead of fighting it. Another misunderstanding is speed. People want fast transformation. Habits work slowly and quietly. This delay frustrates people. They quit before results appear. Atomic Habits explains this with the idea of delayed rewards. Bad habits often feel good now and hurt later. Good habits often feel boring now and help later. Systems help you push through this delay. For students, this might mean reading a few pages even when exams feel far away. For professionals, it might mean learning a small skill regularly without immediate reward. The habit builds capacity over time. The book also talks about habit plateaus. Progress is not linear. You can do the right thing for weeks without visible change. This is where people give up. They assume the effort is wasted. In reality, the work is accumulating under the surface. Like ice warming before it melts. The temperature changes first. The visible result comes later. Atomic Habits does not promise overnight success. It offers something more realistic. A way to stop fighting yourself every day. A way to build behavior that survives boredom and stress. This shift can feel uncomfortable. It removes the drama from self-improvement. It asks for patience instead of excitement. Many people resist this at first. But once you see how systems shape behavior, you cannot unsee it. You notice why certain habits stick and others fail. You start paying attention to small actions instead of distant outcomes. This is where the idea starts to matter personally. You begin to question how your days are structured. You notice what is easy and what feels forced. You see where goals fail and systems succeed. Atomic Habits does not ask you to dream smaller. It asks you to build smaller. The ambition stays, but the approach changes. The focus moves from what you want to achieve to who you are becoming. Applying these ideas starts with letting go of dramatic change. You stop asking how to transform your life quickly. You start asking what tiny action you can repeat daily. The shift feels simple, but it changes how you relate to effort. The first step is to make habits obvious and easy. If you want to read more, place the book where you can see it. If you want to study, open the notebook before you sit down. Small visual cues reduce friction. The second step is to lower the bar for success. You stop aiming for long sessions. You aim for showing up. Reading 1 page counts. Studying 5 minutes counts. This approach feels strange at first. Your mind says it is too small to matter, but the habit is not about performance. It is about repetition. Once a habit starts, it often continues. 5 minutes turn into 10 without pressure. 1 page becomes a chapter naturally. The key is starting without resistance. Over time, consistency builds trust with yourself. You stop breaking promises because the promises are realistic. This changes how you see yourself. You begin to feel reliable. This is where identity quietly shifts. You are not trying to read more. You are becoming someone who reads daily. You are not forcing discipline. You are practicing it. Atomic Habits explains this gently. Every action is a vote for your identity. You do not need perfection. You need enough votes over time. Students experience this shift clearly. Instead of chasing grades, they focus on being a person who studies daily. Exams become less stressful. The habit supports them automatically. In work life, the identity shift matters even more. You stop chasing productivity hacks. You become someone who shows up and works steadily. Progress feels calmer. Phone habits also change through identity. You stop saying you need less screen time. You start acting like someone who values attention. Small choices support that belief. Another important step is tracking habits lightly. Not to judge yourself, just to notice patterns. Awareness alone often improves consistency. When you miss a day, you do not panic. You do not restart everything. You return to the habit the next day. This prevents small breaks from becoming quits. Over months, the impact becomes visible. Your skills improve without intense effort. Your confidence grows quietly. You stop relying on motivation. After a year, the change feels natural. The habit feels like part of who you are. You forget the version of yourself that struggled to start. The long-term effect is not dramatic success. It is stability. You trust your process. You stop swinging between extremes. Atomic Habits includes a line that stays with many readers. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Over time, your system becomes your strength. This way of living feels slower. It feels less exciting. But it lasts. It survives stress, boredom, and bad days. You stop asking when motivation will return. You stop waiting for the right time. You act because the habit is there. Years later, you may look back and struggle to explain how things changed. There was no big moment, no sudden breakthrough. Just small actions repeated. That is the quiet power of habits. They build the life you live every day, not the life you imagine once in a while. If big goals have failed you before, this is not a failure of ambition. It is a mismatch of method. Atomic Habits offers a different path. You move forward without pressure. You grow without forcing change. You become without trying to transform. And that is often how real change happens.